It is Get Valiant, number 162. Oh, yeah, brother. Ah,
The
that
big
is right.
162.
How you doing,
And
man? Yeah,
doing good. Just trying to get through the day. Every day is the same day
yeah,
now.
it is a
So
lot of the same day. Everybody welcome live. Unfortunately, Eric has a stand-in right now, so Gub Gub is taking his spot until he's there. Everybody welcome live.
not much of a difference,
Gub
I don't
Gub.
think. They both got facial hair and that crazy look. So
It's a
it's just
shame
like the
after
Eric
a
we know.
long set, like, a 30-minute, 45-minute long death
Yep.
metal set playing the drum.
After he's just been
Yeah.
blasting the drums.
He's just like, I'm done, man. So, well, news wise within Valiant, I think the only thing I saw was that I think you posted it on our Facebook page. It was the Dan Mintz interview on Deadlock.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it didn't seem like a whole lot of anything really. It's just him kind of talking up the properties, not anything happening with them, and I didn't know really what to think of it too much. I thought it was all right. I mean, he seemed like he was stoked for him, but it was kind of a nothing interview. I was hoping there would be a little bit more to news-wise breaking. It just seemed like maybe it was just like, hey, our properties are cool, and we're gonna do something with them sometime, and that's about it.
yeah.
Get that.
Yeah, I think that's kind of it. It seemed like a filler issue, and I don't know where they interviewed him or if it was a collection of interview that they just needed some material, because he's kind of said a lot of stuff here and there throughout him being at the head, which is almost 2 years, over 2 years now.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to say about that is like I feel like in the time that Dan Mintz has been running Valiant or owning Valiant, however it is, we've only gotten a few little snippets of anything from him. So maybe like on one point it's a good thing where we're not just hearing from this dude all the time. He's just letting people do their work. But then at the same time, it's like if you're passionate and you kind of have a bad rep with like the community, but like I thought this was a decent interview. I really did. Like it to me, it felt like he kind of knows what he's talking about with the stuff, but at the same time, it's just like kind of a nothing interview. Like nothing of knowledge was gained from it other than that, like he reads the books and he thinks of a certain way. The one thing I thought was interesting is he's like, like he's very positive about what people are doing. Like he compliments Marvel. So I was really appreciative of the fact that he didn't just come out there and was like just talking shit. Like everybody else sucks. We're awesome. We got one movie, but we're still better than everyone else. But the fact that he was like, he's like, I think that our properties, these characters, I think that there's something a little bit better than the average character, and that these are the kind of things,
Right.
because they're deeper. They're not just like they have an origin.
Right.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah. You didn't?
I don't
Oh,
care.
man.
I'll say this: it's well done. It looks great. It's not bad. It's just that for me, like, it just wasn't the most exciting movie to watch.
Yeah.
That's all. I mean, it's not a bad movie.
Hey.
But I mean, regardless, I just don't think that like he's looking to do those kind of movies, regardless of what they are.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's for sure. I don't think. Yeah.
Hey, Gub Gub's finally in the house.
Oh. Did you see your fill?
I can't tell which one. I can't tell which one's which.
It's hard. It's hard. Have you seen this guy? He was running around saying "gub gub." So we created a new Get Valiant tradition. When somebody's out, that's now their fill in is gub.
Fair enough.
I wonder if my mic is just turning to shit.
It could be. It could be. I hope Eric's coming in all right on everybody's end. And that rocking. And rolling. It is Get Valiant 162. The whole crew is here now, and we are talking a little Archer and Armstrong, Valiant Heroes of the Week, man. So pumped up to have them.
Oh, I don't get to talk about that whole Dan Mintz thing.
You can talk about it.
Okay, go back and talk about Dan.
No, I think, I don't know if you guys addressed this, sorry. Ball Moose had a good point that it didn't feel like he was addressing the comics. It felt like he was just care about this IP and care if we do movies because they're going to be different. It would have been nice for it to be more addressing, not only would the movies be different, but the movies would be different because of what's happening in the comics. And if he would have been able to say, like, here are some things that happened recently, or here's what's in the pipeline that is going to provide examples for how and why Valiant is different and bring something different to the table. But anyway, that's all I was really thinking.
Well, do you think, though, that it's a case of him being like, the comics are a separate thing and we have people who work on that end, I leave it to them, I'll do the movie stuff? Or do you think it's him being like, I don't have any idea what's going on with the comics, but please look at our stuff and do something with it, please. I like money.
The latter.
I think it's that. I think it's him just doing anything that's going to get some press, at that point, too. What's going to get some people, what's going to get an article written on about him and what he says. Because that is getting the name and people, the logo in people's faces. It may be helping selling the movie, which I got the Blu-ray or the 4K in, so all the deleted scenes. Hopefully, we talk about that soon.
Yeah, let's pick a day to do that, and we can do it.
Well, hopefully, we get something.
Anywho,
one of the things that was said or rumored at one time was a potential Archer and Armstrong movie. They're the heroes of the week. Love, love, love Archer and Armstrong. They are my favorite buddy duo in Valiant.
Do you remember, before we get into this, and John might know what I was talking about, do you remember when we went to the producers panel at Emerald City? And Dinesh was part of the panel, and he was talking about how at some point there was this talk about doing an Archer and Armstrong movie. And the disconnect between the comic side and then what a potential producer of the movie would do is so wide, because there was all this talk, and John might remember this, where like Dinesh was saying that like they wanted to change the entire dynamic to where
buddy cop. They wanted them to be cops.
Yeah, buddy cops. Archer and Armstrong are cops, and Armstrong is like the veteran, and Archer's just like the rookie. It's like, that sounds terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why you would need to make them cops. I mean, there's already so much awesome story there. Like, there's so much to work with already.
Well, and not only that, but there's how many, like, buddy cop anythings are there in this world, you know? I mean, there's not this. There's not this kind of story of, like, the immortal and his enemy becoming friends, and they become like best friends and almost like a mentor of such, and they have their own weird, bizarre adventures.
Yeah, that would have been terrible. Would I have watched it? Absolutely. That's what's sad.
We would watch it because we would do an episode on it.
And they hopefully would have made it something different, where it could have been like Armstrong is still an Eternal, and he comes across this rookie kid, and there is hopefully like some of that pieces that stick true to the story. But yeah, that was kind of sad when you think about how movies want to kind of let me put this and then let me squeeze it into this other box, versus letting it kind of keep some just some its own nature, its own its own living being. They're trying to make it into something it's not. And like you said, how many other buddy cop things are there?
Yeah, and the thing is, like, go ahead, Eric. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say what you said there, Hooser, is exactly what I was thinking. Like, it seems like you're trying to take Archer and Armstrong and fit a square peg into a round hole. And that, to me, isn't how you get what's great about Archer and Armstrong across. You don't try to turn it into something that it's not.
I was just going to say, if you look back at the history of superhero movies, even going back to like the 70s and 80s when they've tried to do like the Captain America movie, the first one that I think popped up like in the early 90s, Spider-Man on TV, all those kind of things, and how weird it is that people are like, successful comic, but we think we know what's going to make it better, and they change all those things and they're terrible, and even like, I mean, like as much as I like the old Batman movies, there's a lot of weird things that they did where they're like, you know what, the Batmobile's got machine guns on it, he's going to fucking murder people. Like it's like Batman doesn't even shoot. Like even at that time, year one had just come out. They just relaunched after post Crisis, and it's like Batman's vehemently anti-gun. Now he's got machine guns, like rad machine guns. So I don't know. Hopefully, when we do one day get that Archer and Armstrong movie, if it ever does happen, hopefully those people who are really passionate about making that movie make it a lot more like the comic and not that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think about it, and it's going to that and keeping the nature of what it's supposed to be. And it reminds me of like Rick and Morty, right? Like you might not think is what it is, but when you read the comics and there is some parallels to it, and you want that, and there is a market for it, and it's just you don't, like Eric used the thing of the round peg in the square hole or whatever you want. It's not that, and Archer and Armstrong has been good, and I think it is a good compliment to the characters that they're wanting to do anything with, that they're wanting to have some of this characters portrayed into something, because they could just do any buddy cop, but they're trying to do something with them. So that just shows that people are liking these characters, and they're fun, they're entertaining. And when 2012 the Van Lentes run just started off, I enjoyed it. I thought it was hilarious. I thought that it had some really good heart to it, and I thought it was really like it had slapstick, but it was also like really intelligent to a weird degree too, with just Armstrong running through the history in the past. It was quite a fun story, and these guys, I've been missing them ever since Raver stopped that run of Adventures of A&A.
I think the last thing we got was the one shot from Divinity 3, or maybe it was Vault of Spirits. I can't remember which one was the last one, but it's been a while. And I'll even say this real quick. When in the old VH1 days, I was not a huge fan of Archer and Armstrong. It looked great with Barry Windsor Smith, but it was not one of my favorite books. It was all right, It's just, I didn't really like. I probably didn't buy a lot of it until the 2012 run started happening, and I liked it so much that I had to go back and start filling in all my runs of Valiant. So for me, like far and away, I like the new stuff more. But the Barry issues do look really, really great. But also, like, there's a lot of great art on this. I love Perez. Clayton Henry's issues look amazing. It's just a really good looking book all around. So, and me and Hooser were talking about this before. It was really hard to pick a favorite story with this. It really was, because I like so much of Archer and Armstrong with VEI, except for the only thing I probably couldn't have picked from would have been that one shot from Divinity. It's a good book. It's okay, but like I don't love it. But even like Vault of Spirits, I thought about that. I was like, I love Vault of Spirits. But it was just really hard to pick because I could have picked almost anything.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, I wanted to pick something I didn't think that you guys would pick, and that's essentially what because it's hard to say, like, there's so many directions that you could go, and there are a lot of arcs that I think you could make a good case for, right? Like, I know that Mission Improbable has some fans, and as a Bloodshot fan, I think it's cool that they did that.
I'm surprised you didn't pick it,
I am very surprised at that.
Because there's a really great Bloodshot and Armstrong
there's a really
moment
good fight scene with Archer and Bloodshot as well. So
Yeah, but the part where like Bloodshot is like, I can't get drunk or whatever, and Armstrong just hugs
that's
him,
right.
and he's just like,
That's
oh,
great.
it's like such an awesome moment.
Yeah, I totally remember that. No, there were some really good moments in that, and that definitely is a good story. So nothing wrong with that at all. But yeah, so do we
Should we
get
get
into
into
our
the
stories?
stories? Well, there, like Josh said, there's lots to choose from. I think I kind of entered these to somewhat be chronological order here, so I think that leads off with Josh and his story.
So I went with the zero issue, the Archer and Armstrong zero issue that's talks about, how Archer is reading Gilgamesh and Armstrong kind of breaks it to him that like, here's the real story of it. It's not about one, it's about three. It's about three brothers who did everything for the civilization that they lived. Their civilization finds like that weird spider person from far away, and they're sent out to basically find the faraway. And I think it's a great story. For one, it's the story about where Galad dies. They take back the boon, and Armstrong explains that they use it to try to revive Galad. Wipes out their civilization. They all gain immortality. But I just think it does show off a little bit of like who they are. Ivar is this kind of a prick character. He's a little bit egotistical, which I think is great. I love it when you do get a little bit of a flashback on him, and he's not just like the guy who just wants to drink and party. He's a lot more focused. I think it's kind of a cool look for him,
Yeah.
But then like you do see that just Galad is just such a badass, and he doesn't care, and he doesn't have histories of combat, he doesn't have a history of combat throughout the centuries. He's just he's still alive. He hasn't faced defeat yet. So it's just a fun story, and I love the fact that at the very end of it, you kind of feel like, or you learn that it's what Armstrong wrote. He wrote the story, and he didn't. After that, he was like, all I want to do is be a writer, and after I did that, I didn't have to do anything else. It was a hit. So I just went and started drinking and partying. Like I think it's kind of a fun way to see like what maybe set him on his path, if there's any honesty to it. But it's written very well. There's some good humor to it, and I think Fred knows these personalities so well. Maybe the only person I think that does Galad better so far at Valiant would be Robert Venditti, just because I love Wrath of the Eternal Warrior, and I think he's the best person who's handled it. No slight to anyone else. The Valiant's great. Galad in Unity is great, but that's just my ranking of it. But Clayton Henry's pencils and the colors on this just look amazing. It's just like a perfect single issue, and that's all it really is. I know that everybody else picked story arcs, but to me, this was the thing that's most memorable, and I've probably read it the most, just because it's collected in. I want to say it's at the end of the first hardcover, or maybe the beginning of the second hardcover. It's in the Valiant Zeros and Origins trade. I think I just completed all the variants for this one. I think I have all three variants, or all three covers. So I've read it like a lot recently. But I do like this issue a lot. I think it's great. And it's just a good origin issue. Like as far as any of the origins for any of the Valiant characters go, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah. When you look at this book, what I like about it is such a huge point in Valiant, for Valiant, basically the universe and the characters, right? Because you're getting 3 of the large characters in here, and then add in the Archer zero issue that happened later on with Archer. And it's cool to see a comedy book like this be to a point, and it should be a core of Valiant. You have the Psyop with Archer in there, who's one of, he's awesome, right? And you look at his upbringing and where he came from. And then you have, Armstrong, you have the Eternal Brother. And they're a huge, piece to connect this universe. We need to see them more, but they're such a, just to me, an integral piece to the Valiant universe that we need to keep coming out. And just this story to figure out about these 3. And at this time, I think this was, how long after this did Ivar Time Walker come out? So it set that up.
It was a bit after.
Yeah, because he had finished with Archer and Armstrong pretty much when that happened. And then we got, and then we had, like you said, Glad in there, and he was the first person to touch Glad in Valiant, I believe, as well, with the issue number 4 or 5 of Archer and Armstrong. Yeah, when he comes in, and so it was a great piece to have this in this comedy book, to have such a rich and meaningful stories. They're not throwaway, and I think that's sometimes what we get with the other buddy duo with Quantum and Woody. It seems like they can be kind of throwaway with the universe, and these things kind of matter. And I do love them, even though the arc I chose has nothing to do with the universe, but it was great.
Yeah. I think within this one too, one thing I like about it is the fact that the Immortal Brothers actually come off as brothers in this. Like you can tell that Ivar, being the oldest, he tries to be the smartest one, and the middle brother is like the most normal of them all, Armstrong. And for the record, I totally dig just looking at like Armstrong as like a buff, ripped dude instead of just like a dude in an overcoat who's probably got like a beard.
He's probably just saying how buff he was in high school. And
again, that's why it's like with all of it, it's like you wonder how much of it's truth, with how much of it is he embellishing for Archer, But I just kind of love how much like when the tale does get serious and Glad dies, like how you kind of see the change in the personalities, because Armstrong is off with the boon, trying to get it back to where they're going, and Ivar and Galad are trying to basically distance themselves from these people who are riding dinosaurs, and Galad dies in combat, and you kind of see that emotion where like Ivar's like he fell, like in battle, and he's kind of taken back. He's got remorse from it, It's just nice to see that, because you don't really get a lot of that, I think, with the brothers when they're portrayed some of the times within the universe.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we don't get enough as brothers, right? Like we don't get the three of them together very often. We haven't seen Ivar in quite some time. Very rarely do Galad and Armstrong's paths cross. So yeah, I mean, this is one of those books where we really get to see the Immortal Brothers as brothers, like you had kind of mentioned before. And I definitely think that that's one of the high points of this book, is that we get to see the three of them interacting like we don't really get to see anywhere else.
And on top of that, that's one thing I like about another book that I thought about talking about, which was Vault of Spirits, because I like at the very, very end of it when they're all drinking and you do kind of see like that spiritual visage of Galad at the table with them. And I actually thought that was a really nice touch on that story, just to have him represented.
Yeah. And part of why
Absolutely.
I like Ivar Time Walker too, when Armstrong's running around, call him Gilly, and great.
Yeah, definitely. I like how they treat Galad like, well, he's the little brother.
He's the little brother.
Yeah. Because he's such a serious character, and everybody takes him so seriously. Everybody looks to him as this font of wisdom and knowledge and experience and strategy. And then you see Armstrong give him a noogie or whatever.
Now that we've brought that up, it's kind of too bad that, as badass as Galad is, we don't get a lot more stories where you see him and Ninjak and Exo and Livewire. They're getting ready to like just bust some ass, and then just have Armstrong show up and just like rank him out, like right there in front of everyone. Like, shut up, Gilly. Like, you don't know. And then everybody be like, what? Like, what the hell is this? Just like making fun of him. It's almost like because that would be like the ultimate like big brother, little brother.
Oh,
moment,
yeah.
Showing you up in front of your friends.
Yeah. Treat him like only a big brother could.
Yeah, I could see like a good story of somebody not knowing that they're brothers necessarily. Like a new hero comes up and meets them, and then that happens, and he gets in Armstrong's face and kind of like, what are you doing to
How dare you talk to the Eternal Warrior like
and
that?
it's like, dude, shh. And then just Armstrong shut up and puts the guy's face.
Face palms him.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, that's a good call out, though. I mean, I think this was a great book within the Archer and Armstrong series that happened right here. And it does do a huge piece to touch about one of the integral characters of that. Yeah, there was, like you said, there was tons to pick from. It could have been that first arc of them getting together, and you're seeing this naive, Archer going after the evil one there. And it could have been the attack of the nuns. Could have been, going to the far away. I enjoyed that quite a bit. Mission Improbable. one of the things I really liked about the Going the Far Away is when Ivar comes in there. And I've talked about this a couple times. When Ivar comes in the Far Away, and Archer is upset that Mary Maria is like gone, and Ivar's like, he's worried about his girlfriend. He's like, what happened to Faith? And it's interesting that, you know what I mean, that was before Faith came around. That's before those two got together. And like, what? He's like, oh, wait, never mind. And then he talks about that was after the third Harbinger Wars, right? And so it had such good like continuity, little breadcrumbs set for little things to happen down the way, that if you watch it, because Ivar was great at doing that when he came into the picture, and he left those little breadcrumbs in those issues, which I thought was great. But one of the ones that I got that I just thought was great, and it may be against popular opinion, but that was, if it goes to it, there it is, American Wasteland. I dug American Wasteland, and Eric's still gub, so let's make sure that stops. And I dug this. I liked the Lizard King, the Jim Morrison reference. I like the Elvis reference. I like the two orderlies that are West and East, and it's Biggie Smalls and Tupac. It was just Andre the Giant, Michael Jackson, like anybody who has died and famous. And it was just this weird Hotel California, I don't know. To me, it was just hilarious. It hit all kinds of funny points. And it hit on like a bunch of pop culture. And I just dug it. I just remember laughing at it and just kind of touching base with it. Fat Elvis sitting on the toilet. There were just some fun things in this book that just really, I don't know. I dig it. What Pierre Perez did this. It was an awesome book. And I just remember how this one made me laugh. And I just remember like this is the one that I come back to and kind of think about and get back to the Lizard King. And then you fast forward, to Ninjak vs. the Valiant Universe, and the guy who kind of plays, Jim Morrison in WWE ends up being Glad in Ninjak vs. the Valiant Universe. So there was that kind of like weird real world connection of that. So I thought that was kind of funny. It's like you're supposed to play Jim Morrison. You should have been playing Lizard King in an Archer and Armstrong movie, not Glad in Ninjak vs. the Valiant Universe. But it was fun to see that. But yeah, this is the one I chose. Yeah, there we go.
I always thought this one was really creative because it does play with a lot of different people who exist in the world. And I always like the fact that the one guy in it kind of negates or blocks what Archer is able to do. Mm-hmm. Like you get that moment early on where you just think he's just going to kick the shit out of everyone. And it's just garbled, and he just basically like gets his butt handed to him. So I always thought that was kind of a cool moment too, just to kind of knock Archer down just like a peg, because he is kind of an unstoppable force, once he gets going. So sometimes you got to have that moment where the hero gets knocked down just a bit.
Yeah.
I think it's a solid story. I haven't read it in a long time, so I can't get too detailed into it, but I definitely know that Fred Van Lindsay knows these characters. I don't think that there's any arguing that.
I want to say I read this storyline when all the quarantine stuff just started, because I had downloaded a bunch of apps, and I want to say the Hoopla app has this trade on it for free to read.
It's worth it.
I think I've read it.
To check it out.
Yeah, so yeah,
definitely
go check it out.
Worth the read. Like I said, I just remember laughing at just the little connections of saying things and not really saying exactly who it was to, catching the references. It was kind of like a fun little game while you're playing it. There's an image where they're in the party, and I still look at it right now, and I'm trying to like identify everybody that's in there, because my old memory forgets every once in a while. But yeah, you catch somebody new almost each time you look at it. Jimi Hendrix, Andre the Giant. There's Vinny or Dimebag Darrell. Yeah, just like it's damn cool to see. So yeah, I actually didn't see that till just now that Dimebag Darrell's in. That's cool.
Michael Jackson. Yeah. Everybody.
Yeah. Well, that's mine. And then ready for yours, Eric?
Yeah, absolutely. I went back and reread the first volume of Rafer Roberts' run in the bag. And to me, like, what I always think about when we get these hero of the week, I think of, what is something that I could point to and say, this is a moment that a new reader could read these characters and really get to understand their dynamic, what they're about. And I think that this is new reader friendly, and it also respects the continuity that has come before it. This is a really fun story, I think, with, Armstrong always has his satchel and he's always throwing things in it or pulling things out of it. But this is the story where we really get to see the inside of it. And we see, Armstrong has gone in searching for a bottle of liquor. Archer has to follow him in and try to bring him out and get him to close the satchel because monsters are escaping. Then Archer has to call Mary Maria in. She brings in her Sisters of Perpetual Darkness. Like, there's so many of these awesome Archer and Armstrong characters that come into this story, and there's so much that happens in it. I think that this is just a really great book. This is definitely something that I would recommend to a new reader, to somebody who is interested in Archer and Armstrong and finding out what they're about. This I definitely think is a good jumping on point. And like I said before, it respects all the continuity that's come before. The other thing that I really love about this, and I know that when this book came out, one of the controversial parts of it was the art, but I actually really, really love the art in this book. I think that this, to me, is my favorite Archer and Armstrong art.
Yeah, I was going to say the only thing I think that about it, I haven't read it since it came out, and we talked about those issues like years ago. We talked about the whole series. That book came out forever ago, it feels like. But I didn't love the art at the time, So at some point I'm going to give this a reread because I do love the characters a lot. I remember Davy the Mackerel popped up in this, and he had some cool moments here and there. I don't think he had as many in this part of the run,
right?
But later on, like, he kind of paid off a little bit more. And Bacchus he was all right as a villain. But I love the fact that I love the fact that Armstrong has a bottomless bag or a bag of holding, like whatever term you want to use.
The
for
satchel.
It.
It's a satchel.
And but that's what it is, though. Like in D&D terms, we're talking about holding, and you can put anything in that bag of holding. In Armstrong's world, it's like a location. I love that, So I thought it was a really creative story. I think that Rafer does not get the credit he deserves when it comes to Archer and Armstrong. People can say what they want about Harbinger Renegade, and I'll give them that. I thought it was like that had a great first issue, and then it kind of fell off from there. But I think that he does solid work on this book. It's very enjoyable, and like I was saying before, like there were so many great stories to talk about. I would easily have picked that last story of this even. Just because I do think that the writing is that good. And this is the perfect book for Rafer in the Valiant universe. This
I agree with the art that you said, Josh. At first, it was, a little jarring after having come off of, some of the books that were, I don't know, they were just different. The styling was different. And then you had a long run of a different style that were somewhat similar through Fred Van Linte's, And then this one was different, but I do think it fit the story. It was this realm and this bag that he's going down, and it fit what they were going for. And I enjoyed it. I do think that this was a fun run, and I've heard a lot of people say that they want it to continue, that they wish that there was another, 12 issues to this one. I've heard others have other views of it, but we're not going to like everything. And that's why there's debates on what the best Batman story is still. It's gonna happen. But ultimately, like, Rafer, this was what he did best. This one was what his best touch was with Valiant, was his Archer and Armstrong. And I just feel for the guy because he had to write after, Fred's long run, and then he had to write after Josh's long run. And Joshua Dysart, not Joshua down below here. Making sure. He didn't.
Not me. And, I've done nothing. I've written nothing.
But ultimately, it was good. I would have them in any form rather than having them on a shelf or shelved up. I guess I would like to have their books newly on a shelf. But yeah, our A&A was a fun book. One thing I really dug was the cover. Typically they're A covers that happen. I think we've displayed some of them, like the one dead center. Love the shirt. This image right behind me. Like I've just loved that image, and that's what I see when I see Archer and Armstrong. Is I see that image now. I mean, that's a good fitting piece. And this book just looked really good on a shelf, and it introduced some people to Valiant, and it was all the way. Like, yeah, Adventures of Archer and Armstrong. So.
And it was an adventurous book, and we got so much out of this book. I do think that it's pretty underrated. And I know that the art is a point of contention for some people, but for me, this is, like I said before, this is quintessential Archer and Armstrong. And Davy the Mackerel, I don't think you can get any better than him. He's not as involved in this arc as he is a little bit later in the story, but I think that he's so perfect in this. There's all the moments that he has are just great. Like, oh, I'm just a little fish guy. Oh, and of course I have to go back into captivity. Why not? Yeah, there's just so many of those little moments with him.
Well, I was gonna say, didn't he end up hanging out with Dump Bucket at the end of it too?
Oh man, I haven't read the entire run again since it came out. I went back and reread this because I felt like this is exactly the story that I really wanted to get into with Archer and Armstrong. This, to me, like when I knew that they were going to be the heroes of the week, I thought about like, what are the stories? What is the story that I would point to and say like, this is quintessential Archer and Armstrong? And it's this is the one that I have to go to. Plus, like I said before, I wanted to make sure I was picking something that wasn't exactly what you guys were going to pick too.
Yeah, but this one's way good though. I mean, like I was saying, like the whole run is really good. Archer and Armstrong is I don't know. I mean, I can only speak from my own opinion, but I just think that they've had such a consistent run of quality stories the entire time since that BEA has been out. It's just too bad it doesn't sell better.
Yeah, it is too bad. I mean, and I think that these characters have there's a lot there to get voices of these characters, right? To have the one that was brought up in a cult, and then the eternal drunk who has seen it all and smart ass, and he's a poet, and he's just the guy you want to go have a beer with, and you want to be on his side in the fight, not somebody else on the other side. They're just great characters too, and so I feel like if you really focus on characters with these two guys, you're gonna get a story. And even if the plot or whatnot is not all that great, if you're focused on the characters and you're making Armstrong wisecrack, you're making naive Armstrong be Armstrong, or Archer be Archer, it's going to be great. It's going to be fun. And then towards the end of this, we also got to see Faith come in the story with Archer that we talked a little bit about last week. And so that was kind of a cool connection piece as well.
Yeah, I think that like in this story, in the bag, Archer, if I could talk, Archer is kind of like, he gets really, really drunk. One of the funny parts of this story is when Bacchus hooks both of them up with tubes into their mouths and makes them get really drunk. Of course, it doesn't barely affect Armstrong because he's used to basically mainlining alcohol. But Archer gets really, really, really messed up. And Mary Maria has to come save them. And Archer basically tries to kiss her, but then when he sobers up, he's like, look, I got a girlfriend, kind of. And that's when we, start hearing about him and Faith having their, the beginning of their romantic relationship. But yeah, I think that this book goes through so much of the continuity. It connects up with everything that has happened with these characters. It moves the characters forward in a way that we would want a book to do. Yeah, to me, this is such a great Archer and Armstrong story.
Totally.
Awesome.
Yes, Archer and Armstrong. People are loving it. Scott Bloom's chatting with us. But here's another one that I like too. what was that? Entering Clown Town, I think was that arc name.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So, yeah, all the way around. Archer and Armstrong are, God, I think I was saying like Harbinger was my favorite book for a long time, and Archer and Armstrong was my second favorite. Right? Armstrong's probably my favorite character. I dig him. Like I say, he's that guy that would be fun to actually go have a beer with and make friends with. So
I think that they'd be fun to hang out with in general. I think it'd be really fun to hang out with Archer and Armstrong. I think that, and that was one of the things that Ninjak versus the Valiant Universe got right. I think that they did a really good job with the relationship between Archer and Armstrong. And
Monkey Brewster.
This, yeah, and the scene when we meet them when they're in the bar and like Archer is winning bets to try to raise money for charity, and then Armstrong is like, "Oh, this will cover my bar tab."
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Let's go.
And Kevin Porter is great as Armstrong. He is just. It's too bad that we exist in a world where that dude's not like a bigger like star, just because he would be perfect for like a live action movie of the character. And I've got to be around him a bunch of times, which is really odd. Not like it's just kind of been accidental, but like he's been to Utah. I hung out with him outside of a shop at one point too. I hung out with him at WonderCon.
That's right. You did have that shop interview with him. I forgot about that.
Yeah, and then I went to dinner with him. Like me and a bunch of dudes went to dinner with him afterwards, and he is just such a hilarious dude. He's really nice. He's really friendly. And for whatever level of stardom he's got, he doesn't carry like an ego, like at least not that I could notice. And he's just super friendly and talkative. And I kind of feel like in a way that's what you would get out of Armstrong. He would be super talkative and friendly. He didn't drink like him, but like that's okay. But he was a great dude, and he's big in real life too. Like he's considerably bigger than me.
He's a good sized guy. When it came to casting, one of the guys I always said, I mean, if it wasn't acting, if it was just looks, would definitely be the Big Show, right? If it was just for looks, the Big Show all day long. I don't think he could act worth the freaking lick, but the guy looks so much.
Well, especially now that he's lost weight.
Even I think
because
the Big Show now.
Yeah. But
he does have his own TV show on Netflix, I believe.
I've seen like little clips of it. I haven't watched it, but yeah,
I can't say that it's good. I don't know, but
yeah,
it does exist.
Kind of how the world would. But that's kind of how the world would go. Like if they were going to cast it, people would just be like, "Oh yeah, the Big Show." He's like 7 feet tall, but it's like he's not that big. There was a picture on Bat in the Sun, I think today, where it showed like Kevin Porter working out or something that they're doing, and he looked ripped. Like he takes his workout serious.
Because he's going to be Batman again. They're doing another Batman fan film.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Man,
I was like, and honestly, he does a decent Batman, and Aaron does a great
He
Joker.
He looked like Armstrong from my story that I picked, though. Yeah. Like that's what he looked like. He was like big, like the serious Armstrong from the Gilmore story.
It was funny. Like we had interviewed him after episode 4, I think, came out on Ninjak Versus, and he's like, "Let's just watch it together. That's awesome." He was just fun, dude. And he was talking about how he wore so many coats just to like get his size up. Like he had like 4 coats on during it.
Yeah.
And like, dude is just an awesome, awesome dude. And yeah, that would be a great one. The guy who played Archer, and then the guy who came in and played, or the guy who came and played Archer did pretty darn good too. It worked.
He looked just like Archer.
He was very acrobatic too. That's what helped.
Yeah, he wasn't like a great actor. He wasn't like a great actor, but he looked just like him, and he could kick some ass. It looked like too.
I thought even acting wise, he nailed Archer. But I think that my favorite thing that we talked to when we were talking to Kevin Porter about his portrayal as Armstrong was that he didn't even remember doing some of the stuff that ended up in the final cuts. Like he didn't remember the like putting his hand on Archer's face and all of that stuff. Like I thought that was funny that he just kind of did that stuff in the moment because he was so in the character.
And then the burger wrapper with the money with the burger wrapper was like a on the spot idea. Like here, this would be funny. This seems like this is something he would do. I'm gonna do it. So
yeah. He's clearly a great actor, Kevin Porter, and really, really nailed that character. And I thought that God, what is his name? Alex Maleev, something like that, is the guy that played Archer. And
Alex Megley.
Megley, there you go.
Good job.
Scott Bloom wrote it down in the chat, so let's give him the credit.
It's right there.
Yes. And yeah, he is a stunt guy, so that made it perfect for him to play Archer. Archer needs to be that kind of like acrobatic and agile kind of guy, and they did a great job casting him. So, we've talked a lot in the past about, wanting more from the Ninjak versus type stuff. I would love to see an Archer and Armstrong spinoff, see a Archer and Armstrong movie made by the Bat and the Sun folks with the same guys playing Archer and Armstrong. I think that would be amazing.
Yeah, I don't understand why. I don't know what the relationship is with New Valiant, Dan Mintz, if you will, and Bat and the Sun, because to me, I just feel like those videos, when not even just like the Ninjak versus stuff, but you'll see those superpower beatdown videos pop up all over the place in comic book pages on Facebook or wherever, and people go crazy for them. People love what they look like. They're a great way to spotlight the characters, to see like a what if you will, of what happens. And it's like, why wouldn't you let those dudes do something, Like they were really passionate about doing that. And so I don't know what any of the deal is with any of it. I don't know if it's just a case of them not wanting to do it anymore. But let them. Those guys, those are just fun videos, man. And those are a great, if you want to get like the word out on your characters, it's not going to be interviews on Deadline. It's going to be getting the people who are really passionate about comic books, who go see those movies, and popping that kind of stuff right in front of them, having them see Archer and Armstrong fight Ninjak, or Bloodshot fight Archer and Armstrong, or whatever you want to do, Like, that's the kind of stuff that I think gets fans recognition of the characters.
And from what my understanding, it does cost them a decent amount of money just to do one superpower beatdown. I think I was hearing Aaron, the main guy over there, he was saying like Chonky. He was saying it was like $50,000 just to do one episode.
But they do it Patreon.
They're doing it.
So they used to not do it before.
Right. But keep on that.
And they've been doing and they're doing Kickstarter because they have a Jason David Frank thing they're doing right now that I think got funded. The White Dragon or the White Tiger or something like that. Yeah. I can't remember what it is, but
some Power Rangers type thing.
But I mean, it'll look cool though. It'll be really cool, just because like they're doing it and all those fight videos are so awesome. I just debate
like if they did a Patreon for these, would they be able to be funded for, what would that look like for funding? If they were to Patreon, funding of one of a Valiant piece.
You know what?
I think that like.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I think that these make great proof of concepts, right? Like you can take, you don't have to make, movie for hundreds of millions of dollars. You can take $1 million or a couple million and go put together something that's really, really cool that fans are really going to enjoy. And maybe it doesn't have the level of effects of, an Avengers movie, but that's fine. I mean, you don't need it to create compelling characters and to have a fun product. If you want to have a proof of concept that these characters are awesome and can be really cool and can generate interest on their own, make more of those videos.
Yeah. My background, I worked for a film festival for 3 years before like Valiant launched again. And in the 3 years that I worked for them, I used to watch a lot of movies that looked bad and just didn't look very good, And I would say that those movies probably had a lot bigger budgets than what Bat and the Sun had. And Bat and the Sun did an amazing job with what money they had to even do this. So people should look at what they do. Some people might look at that and be like, oh, these look terrible because it doesn't look like Avengers or Star Wars. But like, fuck that, like they did an amazing job with the money that they had. Like that looked just as good as like, stuff on the CW, like some of that stuff was pretty decent, and it was entertaining. And that's all that I'm asking for at the end of the day. Sometimes just to be entertained. So it doesn't have to look beautiful. It doesn't look polished. That's great when it does, because it does add a certain level to it. If Ninjak versus the Valiant Universe looked like the Avengers, holy shit, it'd be incredible. But it's still pretty good for what it is. And
they
I think
still had good effects in it.
Yeah, and I think like as far as like funding goes, though, like I think Valiant fans support stuff like at a really
Right.
strong level. People are very passionate about that stuff. So like if they ever did do a Kickstarter for that, I think that you'd see a lot of people who don't normally chip in for those kind of things would be like, oh, it's gonna be a Valiant thing. Here's $10 just because I want to help, put it together. But to me, I would be like, what's some of that higher stuff, like what's some of the cooler stuff that I can take part in or get out of it, just because I like this
Right.
stuff so much. So
Yeah, absolutely. The world needs more, needs a sequel to Ninjak Versus. The world needs spin-offs from Ninjak Versus. We need more.
Need more Archer and Armstrong, man.
Yeah, man. I think, like I said before, I know that they had talked about doing a Bloodshot spinoff from Ninjak Versus, but I think an Archer and Armstrong spinoff would be just as amazing, right? Like, I think that you could have those two actors portray those characters in a way that would really be a lot of fun. They were both hilarious. Every time that they were on screen, they were hilarious. And I think that if you give them an opportunity to do their own little show, even if it's not, an hour and 15 minutes long, give them half an hour. I think that you could do something a lot of fun, whether it's, interpreting one of the stories that already exists or just creating a new original story set in its own universe like Ninjak Versus did. I think either way, there's a lot of opportunity to do something really, really cool.
Agreed.
Yeah.
That's my soapbox.
Yeah, ultimately characters that I want to see on back on the shelf. I want to see them being sold in comic book stores. I want comic book stores to reopen, and I want to be able to laugh. And I want some Archer and Armstrong.
Yeah, I think that would be a great thing to get a new Archer and Armstrong book. And
I know, I keep hoping that, we've had these little like earlier this year and late last year, we would get these little teasers like the Valiant 2020s, and it'd be like the Harbinger bird, or like a sword or like a hand holding a tooth, It's like, yeah, when are we gonna get one though that's like a trench coat arm holding like a Jack Daniels bottle?
Yeah,
or like just a star on like a
I was
light blue
joking
background,
around and I made
like
one and I
something.
sent it to a couple people. I'll see if I could find it. I was like, coming soon. I think I.
Oh, that would be cruelty. Absolute cruelty.
Oh, do I still have it? I don't know if I still do. But it was basically Archer holding a beer. Or no, it was just like a beer mug. And it was just saying, like, you know what I mean? Like, coming soon.
yeah, but that's all you would need to do, right? Like if you just put a hand holding a mug of beer,
or just zoom in on a crossbow that rarely gets used.
Who did I think I sent it to? And yeah, it's just fun stuff to look at, and yeah, it would be great. We're gonna see it, and that kind of goes off of what I was gonna say. Is with this category, who would be the best to plan a party, and the people they put on there. I think Valiant wanted these guys to win. I mean, Dr. Mirage, Livewire, or Glad, right? Like,
I'll say this though. I think Galad would probably throw like a really epic banquet. I've seen him have meals at his house in the wherever it is he lives. That space in between like life and death. Like he could probably roast up some good stuff. But I just don't know how like festive of a atmosphere
the
it would be.
Would definitely be there.
I think that there was a good point. I think there was a good point made that Livewire would host one hell of a rave. And
if you're into that.
Yeah, if you're into that kind of thing, you want an amazing light show, Livewire would be your go-to. And I think that if you wanted a Halloween party, Dr. Mirage would totally be the go-to there. So it's not like they just gave this to Archer and Armstrong, but at the same time, it was kind of a gimme.
I mean, who else would throw a good party?
I know. When I shared it, I was like, "There's no way Archer and Armstrong don't win this."
Yeah. It seemed it. As soon as I saw it, I immediately voted for Archer and Armstrong, and it was pretty clear that they were going to be the ones that would win.
Yeah, it was. Who else do you think would throw a good party then? What other Valiant character do you think would?
Not Bloodshot. Bloodshot would throw a great pity party.
I think the Dead Side characters could throw like a hell of a like Halloween party, you know, like Shadow Man, Punk Mambo, Dr. Mirage. Like you'd have some stuff where you'd be like a haunted house kind of party thing. You'd be like, oh, is that real? Not real? Like the makeup looks too real on those like dead things, you know? Like it'd be kind of cool. You know, be bobbing for eyeballs and might
Ninja
be
probably do a pretty decent one though. He's got the money to pay for somebody.
Maybe.
I was gonna say like he'd throw like a high class,
but high society kind of function.
It'd be like high society, but like with some crazy debauchery.
I think Faith would probably throw a really good party,
like,
you know, because she's so down to earth
type thing.
Yeah, just like, you know, there'll probably be like karaoke and like some good food, you know, not like a crazy like rager, but like it'd probably be like a really like good time.
I think out of all the Valiant characters, Faith would be the one that would throw the party that I would want to go to, because it'd be like people hanging out, making movie references and comic book references, and like
who would throw the one you least would want to go to?
Bloodshot.
Like
I love Bloodshot.
I'm gonna say a name. I'm gonna say a name, and then you're gonna be like, "Yep, that's actually the one I would want to go to." Torque.
I don't know. Well, okay, here's the one time he will get praise from me. He'd probably have a bunch of babes though at his party.
It'd be a dumb meat fest kegger, dude. It would be a.
But he's such a
it would be like.
At least at like Faith's party though, like Faith would like lead you to the back room, and it wouldn't be like makeout. It'd be like to go look through like long boxes, and that would be. It would be
a frat party all over again.
That's what I say. Yeah, Torque would throw a big rager kegger,
and he would ruin it. He would hear the music playing, and it would just get like too loud, and he'd get way too into it and like break his own wall down.
Yeah, that's the problem though. Is like for me, I wouldn't want to go to his party because he totally like hires strippers and it would be like
I want to go to it all of a sudden.
It would just be too much.
He would just one up everyone. He would just try to one up you, you know. Like,
oh yeah, like you're drinking a beer, watch me drink two.
You're talking to a girl. Why is that girl talking to you? She could be talking to me. You know,
right? Right. Yeah, absolutely. But no, Faith would absolutely throw the party I would want to go to, and then I don't know if I could hang at an Archer and Armstrong party, right? Like that would be the thing. Like it would be way more fun than a Torque party. But I think if I was at an Archer and Armstrong party, you would have those two dynamics kind of. Armstrong would be everybody's best friend the whole time. He'd be wasted. He'd be an amazing host, I think. And then Archer would be running around cleaning up.
But he would have Faith there. Faith would be there. They'd be hanging out. So you'd still get to hang out with Faith.
But here's one thing too, though. Like they would, if you had that party, and this is probably another reason why Archer and Armstrong's party would be so awesome. You know that someone would get shit faced enough to like try to pick on Archer, and he would just lay them out with some badass shit, and it would just rule.
And there would be
he would feel really bad. He'd be like, "I feel really bad that I
hopefully
had to,
invite Torque over so he can do his Torque." He's like, "What are you doing with my ex-girlfriend?" Like that douchebag.
Oh man, hey, Valiant
that needs to be a book. We just wrote a book.
One thing ever.
We just wrote a damn good book.
I was gonna say, Valiant Gods, give me that one moment where Torque gets beat up by Archer,
and not even beat up, just like smacked. Like you know what I mean? Like little dude just smacks the big dude. Let me put you in your place.
Some fear,
and that would just be so funny. Yeah,
I'm down for that moment.
Yeah, all day long.
Awesome.
Dude, that's fun. It's fun to play this what if game and run with that. So, heck yeah, guys.
Yeah, Ninja provides the funding, Galad does the catering, Armstrong bring the drinks, and Livewire the light show. Yeah, if you bring all those characters together, like Scott's saying, I think that you could put together quite the Rager
Flamingo's
as well.
not alive.
Oh.
Let's not even talk about it.
Now we're going to all start crying.
Yeah. We could have Kronos come and, you know.
Yeah. No, this is so cool. This is one of the reasons I love the Valiant doing the Hero of the Week So we might not be getting books right now, but at least we still have these characters to talk about, and good reason to go back and read some stories we haven't read in a while. Like I said, I haven't read any Archer and Armstrong in a long time, so having an excuse to take a little bit of time out and go back and read that the beginning of the Ray for Roberts run, I thought it was good to have that little push. And I can't wait to see what's next. What the next category is going to be. Yeah, I'm definitely.
Who would you like to see talk about? Who would you like to talk about?
Ninjak.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. Like some of the other characters, I like some characters a lot that don't have a lot of books or appearances. So like, I feel like if I was big, oh, Punk Mambo wins, I feel like we would probably talk about everything that she's been involved in, pretty much. Like easy because there's not been like that much. So I feel like Ninjak, he'd be a good candidate. So hopefully 100%. He wins.
I found it. Oh, it took me forever. But it was just
You've been searching this whole time.
It was just
Valiant 2020.
I was like, okay,
there
cool.
You go.
It's just that. It's beer.
I bet if you just posted that now, like someone would be like,
"Oh my
what?
God!" Yeah, I almost did it just to, but
you'd have to, I think, give it like 5 minutes. And
I'm
like,
just kidding.
No, it's
Fan made.
I made it. Ha ha ha.
Awesome.
Oh man, yeah, it's awesome to talk about Archer and Armstrong. I think that they don't get enough love sometimes. Definitely want to thank everybody watching, listening. I know Aaron Nagy was hanging out in the chat. Obviously Scott Bloom. Definitely appreciate him hanging out as well and adding to our show. And we will be back eventually to talk about that fucking movie. I mean, at some point we've got to do it.
I'm so glad that you still own that.
I made this.
Hooser. That thing's so awesome.
That's amazing.
Because they earned it.
But yeah, so we'll talk about the movie. We'll talk about whoever the next hero of the week is, and eventually we'll get to talking about brand new books again. So thanks everybody for watching, for listening, supporting us, and supporting Valiant. Signing off, I'm Eric Baumgard.
I'm Josh Rathbun. I'm Hooser.